Hey, what's up, everybody? It's just Charles. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and where we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. So we all know that Stephen A. Smith has a long history of going back and forth with NBA players. And he's had some things that he said in the past that's really gotten a lot of attention from people on a global level. You can think of videos that we've done with Joe Rogan and other people coming out saying things about him. Remember the Shohei Ohtani things? All of these different things that Stephen A. Smith has said about different players. But if we're going to focus on the NBA, he's had some altercations with players, right? You can think of players like Kenyon Martin. You can think of players like Jalen Rose, Stephon Marbury recently, who came out in defense of Kyrie Irving, who was saying some things like Stephen A. Smith's voice needs to be canceled. Remember, they had a back and forth. You can also think about Kevin Durant, when Kevin Durant said that Stephen A. Smith was basically just making up stories about him. And then Stephen A. Smith came on ESPN first and said, hey, listen, bro, I'm not the guy you want to make an enemy with. I'm not the guy. You remember when Stephen A. Smith had that back and forth with him. But I think the biggest one that really got the most attention was the Kwame Brown one. That's the one that got everybody's antennas up and really paying attention. And the biggest argument a lot of these people make against him is this. The argument is that Stephen A. Smith will try to destroy players' images to the public, or will do anything to destroy somebody's image as long as it generates ratings and it makes him and his bosses money. Remember, he woke up, he said the first thing in the morning he thinks of is how much money he can make for his bosses. The second thing he thinks of is how much money can he make for himself. Those are the two things. That's Stephen A. Smith's standard disposition on a daily basis, right? He likes to generate shock value and doesn't mind throwing people under the bus if he needs to in order to, serve that means. That's really what he really likes to do. So recently, the Lakers were playing against the Phoenix Suns, right? They were playing against them. And right before halftime, there was an altercation on court between Anthony Davis and Dwight Howard. I think Anthony Davis was trying to say something to Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard was just walking away, trying to ignore him. AD was walking behind him with a quick pace. They went to the sideline, or to the huddle rather, and then they started having a back and forth. They had to be separated by Rondo. LeBron James was there also being peacemaking, all of these different things, right? So they had a heated exchange. And this is something that generally happens, on sports teams. It's just that in this particular instance, we got to see it on TV, right? If this thing had happened in the locker room, we wouldn't even be having a conversation in the first place. Nevertheless, it was caught on live TV. So after that, during halftime, there was a halftime show that Stephen A. Smith was hosting with Jalen Rose, Mike Wilbon and some other Mike Greenberg and some other people. So he was there. And as they got into this segment trying to discuss it, you could quickly see that Jalen Rose was trying to downplay. Now, we can't show you the video, but as you were looking at his face, Jalen Rose could tell that they were going to try to blow this thing out of proportion. So he was trying to downplay the situation. But of course, Stephen A. Smith, in his typical Stephen A. Smith self and fashion, he had to get those ratings and he needed to put out some shock value. So before we go too far, what we want to do is we want to play this clip for you, and then we're going to come back and give you guys our thoughts and opinions on that. So before we go too far, take a listen to this segment right here.
Dwight Howard has been on a different team, it seems like, each of the last 20 years. The Lakers don't have time for this. You bring in old guys, you bring in veterans, smart veteran players, do the smart veteran things, right?
Old grumpy guys, both top 75. Dwight on the fringe of getting in. Everybody talking about why didn't he get in? No big deal. In there at halftime, they talking about it, trying to get ready for the second half.
Let me tell you what is a big deal about it.
No big deal.
You're Dwight Howard. I like Dwight Howard. Look at me right now, Dwight Howard. I would strongly advise you not to get on the nerves of Anthony Davis. You are lucky to be in this league. Now, I think he should be. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a major contributor when he's focused. But if you find yourself on the outside looking in and Anthony Davis got a problem with you, remember, it wasn't too long ago where Dwight Howard was wondering whether or not he'd have a job in the NBA. Landed with the Lakers, won a title, ended up going to Philly. They bring him back. You still making minimum, veteran minimum, over $2 million. This is Anthony Davis we talk about here. Do not mess that up, because you get let go by the Lakers, your career might be over.
Now, in that soundbite, you can clearly see why people get angry with Stephen A. Smith. You can clearly see it. He could have simply talked about the altercation He could have done that. He could have said, listen, I don't think this is good and all of these different things. I think it was wrong, maybe blah, 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 blah. You could have done that. But instead, you had to take it over the top. You had to talk about the fact that Dwight Howard was moving around the league. He could have been out of the league, but then the Lakers picked him up. If he starts making waves with Anthony Davis, he better be careful because he could have been out of the NBA. Why is all of that necessary? And what you guys won't see in the audio is the way Jalen Rose was looking. He was looking uncomfortable because Jalen Rose was trying to diffuse the issue. Stephen A. Smith, on the other hand, saw an opportunity that he could jump at and say, okay, what can I say now that can generate some shock value? And if I have to do it at the expense of Dwight Howard, so be it, as long as this little segment right here could be a great segment. That was totally unnecessary. The two guys, they had an issue. If they had that altercation in the locker room, would we be talking about, oh, Dwight Howard could possibly be thrown off? No, because we wouldn't know about it. But because we saw it on TV and you needed a moment to capitalize on something, you had to do it. Basically, exploiting Dwight Howard in that moment for views, for ratings. And I think that's the part that a lot of people get disgusted with this guy. This is the reason I believe Kwame Brown really got irritated with him and was coming at him so hard, because he feels as if his angle is he's always bent on trying to tear people down. That's the way. That's the kind of impression that I got from him, and I believe is one of the reasons that players, for example, like Kawhi Leonard, avoids him entirely. Kawhi Leonard must have peeped this guy, looked at his MOC, how this guy moves, and it's like, wait a minute. I don't want to be associated with this guy that is known for always trying to tear people down. I don't want to be associated with this guy. I think that's something that Kawhi Leonard saw and said, you know what? Let me just keep my distance from him. I have enough evidence in front of me of different scenarios in which this guy has always had issues and have said things that were totally unnecessary just to get ratings. Right? Why would you want people to start thinking that about Dwight Howard? The Lakers are already going through turmoil right now. They haven't won any games in this new campaign. They haven't won any preseason games, any regular season games. And now you saw a moment. Let me find a way to throw some more fire on top of it at the expense of Dwight Howard. I said it before and I'll say it again. Stephen A. Smith, in my honest to God's opinion, has no respect for anybody. The only people I believe that this guy respects are people that are above him, meaning his bosses, people that can do something for him or something like that, and maybe himself. But if he sees somebody that's behind him, if he feels like somebody's below him, he's not going to respect him. You already saw how he used to act with Max Kellerman. Max Kellerman was his co-host, and he was treating him like it was his little son on TV. This was his co-host, right? And in this case, I believe that Stephen A. Smith believes that he is more relevant than Dwight Howard, so he can talk down on Dwight Howard because after all, he's the face of ESPN and all of these different things. Dwight Howard is at the tail end of his career. He's he's a role player and all of these different things. Do you think he would have been talking about Dwight Howard if it was Dwight Howard with the Orlando Magic that was winning Defensive Player of the Years, going to the NBA Finals, making multiple all NBA teams, all-star teams, all defensive teams? You think he'd have been talking about that Dwight Howard? No. He saw somebody that he felt was below him, at least in the public's eye, and said, you know what? This is my perfect time to poo-poo on him. But Jalen Rose was trying to protect the players because he's a former player. And he was the one that came at Stephen A. Smith when he was calling players scrubs, and he said, you need to find another term. That term seems to be too it seems to be the connotations of that term seems to be a little bit too negative. So Jalen Rose had a back and forth with him. Ultimately, now they're friends now. But I think, as I said before, and I'll say it again, this guy has no respect for anybody. He will make money. He will exploit anybody to make money. In the latest case of this, was Dwight Howard. Thank God Jalen Rose tried to defuse it before it went too far, but ultimately he was able to get his mouth off. So in my opinion, this is what I think. What I want to know from you guys is, what do you think? Am I reading too much into it? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Again, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Once again, it's your Charles here from Dreamerspro, wishing you guys an amazing day and catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.